Are we ready to start here?
Or 3:30 or 2:30.
We're there? All right. Well, it's July 20th, and we're going to continue on with the budget hearings, and our next department's the weed department, so.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. John Landon, Director of Shawnee County Weed Department. This is my first budget hearing for you guys, so, you know, I didn't really know at first what to put together for you. You already had the numbers, so it's more of a kind of a presentation on just some goals and some overview on what we do and that type deal. There's only a couple little slides in there that discuss numbers, so I'll just get started here. Primary functions of Shawnee County Weed Department is we sell herbicides at a cost share price to the landowners of Shawnee County for controlling noxious weeds. That is one of our primary functions. We also supply a lot of information to the residents of Shawnee County on herbicides to apply, when to apply them, that type deal. We also treat all noxious weeds on county-owned ground, as well as the ones listed below that are contracted with. And as you can see, there's a wide selection of people that we contract with to treat noxious weeds on their right-of-way as well. KDOT probably being one of the larger ones. But again, you know, our office does a lot of questions and answering on what type of weed this is, what can we use to kill it, when's the best time to kill it, that type deal. Next slide here is on department challenges, the things that we face that are kind of a struggle with this every day. Workforce capabilities, knowledge, license, training, intermittence. That's kind of one of our big ones is when you look at most of our staff, it's myself and we have a young lady that works in our office, and then we have one full-time applicator. The rest of our spraying is done through intermittent applicators. We hire about 4 of those every year to go out and spray. Well, most of these gentlemen come from us. They don't know a lot about weeds. They're just typically old farmers or somebody that's been in the farming field that knows a little bit about it. And so we're trying to teach them a lot of knowledge in a real short period of time. Trying to teach them about the herbicides, the mix ratios, where to apply them, not to apply them next to beans, sensitive crops, greenhouses, grapes, bees, those type deals. So that's what we struggle with on a daily basis. And just recently, I just got in this morning and we had another one of our applicators turn in notice to leave us at the end of July. So I've lost 2 intermittents here now this summer. And so we're into July. If we get it out there and get applicants in, you're probably looking mid-August at the best. And really, we're kind of in our peak time right now. And so training is going to be a little tough. And then what benefit do you get out of them for the next 2 months before we let them go? So, you know, it's one of the hassles to deal with. There's a limited market on applicators out there. You just don't go find a licensed applicator anywhere. I mean, they're just, it's not like I'm trying to pick up an equipment operator to run a piece of machinery. I'm trying to find somebody licensed to spray herbicides, so.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
What do we maybe try to recruit from K-State with horticulture, people that are pursuing horticulture or those types of degrees at K-State to look at this as a opportunity to develop their resume and broaden their opportunities?
Yeah, so through CWDAK, which is one of the, it's the Weed Directors Association of Kansas. It's 105 counties contribute to this, and we actually we put together money for people to go to get scholarships for scholarship money to try to recruit people to do that.
I mean, I was thinking about just hiring as your intermittent college kids who are pursuing that as their degree.
Well, I mean, it's out there. I don't know how we recruit them unless I don't know how to go about recruiting somebody from K-State to come to Shawnee County to work intermittent employee, you know. It's
What is your time period for hiring an intermittent?
typically about the first part of April, all the way through October.
So it kind of
I think-
interferes with their school
Yeah.
hours.
I think HR might be able to help
Yeah.
with recruiting that type of.
The Caw Valley Votech, I don't know, they used to do a horticulture program. I don't know if they still do that or not. But let me ask you, do we train the people so they can take the test, or are they expected to have those license when they show up?
So currently, we allow the applicators to work under my license as intermittent help. That does put my license at risk if they was to do something that KDA found unlawful, then I would lose my license, which would then present the problem, because as part of the requirements, you have to have that license to be the weed director in any county. So that's part of the problem there. The intermittent employee that we have, the full-time employee that we have, that's an applicator, we just wrote that into her job description, and that was changed this year when I started. So now that is a requirement that you obtain it within 90 days.
Do we pay for that?
We do pay for that, yes, after they pass it.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? What does that cost? A couple $100 or?
Yeah, Commissioner Rippon, it's $50 a category. So you have to take the general part of the exam first, and that covers everything. That's $50, and then each category after that's an additional $50. So we require them to have Category 9, which is to treat noxious weeds, and then Category 6, which is just right-of-way treatment. And the difference between the two is 9 allows you to only treat noxious weeds in the right-of-way. Category 6 allows us to do bare ground on guardrail in the right-of-way, something that's not noxious weed control.
Recently, last year or so, we moved the weed department over to Public Works. And mainly because they're more county-wide. Parks and Rec is basically in the city. You feel like that's working out all
Oh,
right?
yes, I mean, Kurt is outstanding. I mean,
Really?
Outstanding. It's you know, not knowing what it was before or the relationship with Parks and Rec before, I can only judge off what, you know, based on February since I've been here. And I think this is great.
I always thought there could be a little cross-training between some of our county workers that work on roads. They're right there by the right-of-way. They can see what's growing there. If they can identify some weeds, and then let you guys know that,
Right.
you know, where these weeds are. And I always thought that would be helpful. That's another set of eyes out there looking for buying weed and things.
It has been a pleasure, actually, since February to be part of Public Works. So,
Very good.
again, not knowing what the relationship was before, how that worked, but this has worked out well, I think, in my opinion, for both.
Can you get in and out of your office now? I tried to get in the other day and I couldn't get in.
It's a struggle. They actually moved the barricades so we can get in currently, but, you know, that changes daily.
Okay.
So-
All right. Well, hopefully that'll be all wound up sometime.
It is nice and smooth though, finally, so.
Yeah, very good.
Part of our management successions is new director and new staff. Everyone down there is new. The applicator's new as of December. Brandy's new as of, I believe, January. I'm new as in February, so it's an all-new staff. So it's, you know, we're kind of starting over here. We looked at what was in place and seen areas that needed to be improved and started making improvements.
And you've got some new equipment too.
We got some great new equipment. I was gonna talk about that too, as in my next few slides here
Okay.
is successes. And those successes come from you guys. I mean, they're just an idea of mine, but they don't happen without you. And you know, quite honestly, they're a blessing. It's a safer piece of equipment. You don't run the risk of turning it over. It's just gonna make doing the job a lot easier. Part of the other challenges on here is funding history, limited budget, rising maintenance costs with aging equipment, minimum maintenance performed to the building. Just some of the things there that, will be addressed.
Go ahead, Dave.
You have rising maintenance costs with aging equipment. Now, you do have that equipment fund that could be used to maybe replace equipment. Is that a consideration that would help keep those maintenance costs down?
It is, Betty. Actually, we replaced, I'm gonna move this slide over here to
Oh,
successes.
maybe I'm getting ahead of you, sorry.
Yeah, you are kind of just a little bit, but that's okay. So to address that is we did replace those ATVs, the 2 ATVs. We bought John Deere UTV Gators. We also bought 2 trailers to haul those Gators. The trailers that they had for the ATVs were really narrow trailers just for an ATV. So we had to buy 2 new trailers for that. Probably March-ish, I believe, I was in, and we got the authorization to replace the 2 F-150s that Parks had leased, that they weren't big enough to handle the payload that we carry. Part of the plan was then later this year, we have four big trucks that are spray trucks. And we were gonna replace those other 2 later this year, the older ones. I'm kinda pushing that back just a little bit, based on COVID. I'd hoped to, December, bring something to you. There's several things on my list here that I kind of pushed off when I was developing this budget for you, that I kind of put back a little bit because of the COVID stuff. Funding and revenues, and wasn't quite sure what it was gonna do, but, so there, yes, I mean, that capital outlay fund for equipment is there. I know it's there. I'm utilizing it. Sometimes I think that, oh my gosh, they're gonna hate to see me because I want to spend more money.
I'm sorry, another item. Since this is a fund, a separate fund, it also, I would need to have the 5-year CIP request for that.
Yes, so,
And I know you were new this year, and I didn't catch that we hadn't received those.
and Jennifer didn't tell me till like the day before, and I was like,
I'm
what?
sorry, we
And
didn't
so,
catch it in time.
so yeah, so I did not get anything, and I apologize for that. Again, I wasn't aware until the last minute.
And I'm sorry,
and-
we didn't catch it in time to get with you on that, but just for future years, that's something we will. want
Yes, and I'm
to-
fully aware of it now, and Kurt and I's had several conversations on the plan and direction that we're headed to. So, some of the other successes, and not just equipment, software. I don't know, we were using Civic Rec software for the longest time to do chemical sales, just didn't work for us. And so we were able to buy Star Weed Programming that does chemical sales for us now. Does all of our tracking, does our state report at the end of the year. It keeps track of all the chemicals we sell, the acres we treated, how many acres that chemical that we sold is supposed to treat. It'll compile all that information into one deal and print out the state report that they worked weeks and weeks on before I started. So now it's just me entering in weed director adjustments, our little state surveys, print it out, do some adjustments to it, and it's done. So matter of a day is something that we can now do and save them 2 weeks worth of digging information up. So that was a big piece of the puzzle right there. Detailed record keeping. Some of the things I brought with me over to Shawnee County was how we did things in Douglas County. Was we now have maps and detailed spray sheets on mix ratios and that. Missing a little bit on some information. I'm gonna share with you guys some stuff on GPS tracking for vehicles that can track exactly where we spray herbicides here in just a little bit. But some of the record-keeping stuff, detailed stuff that we put together was part of that. It's gonna link to this, that then we'll be able to pinpoint exactly. I applied this herbicide at this GPS coordinates, and we'll know exactly. There won't be any question then. It's all digitally logged, it's stored in a server, and it's there for us if we ever need it. So, we're gearing up for that. Again, that was another one of those things that was gonna be, I was gonna try to push for it here in the next few weeks. And quite honestly, I can't say that I pushed it off because of the cost of it, because it's very minimal. I think it was like $800 for the equipment, and $130 a month, which I thought was really reasonable. But we're getting so late in the year, COVID kind of pushed us back, and so if we can wait till next year and then get it started again sometime in the spring, then I might present it to you then. Some of the notables on the increases, sorry about that. On the budget is personnel services, repairs and servicing, vehicle and equipment supply, the iPads and phones and tires. Some of the changes that I'm gonna walk you through here and probably Betty will help me out, but some of the changes you're gonna notice on how herbicides are budgeted and then reimbursements for those. Personnel services are just kind of, they're broke out a little different, so both those two positions I had, the applicator and the account clerk too, they were both, I believe, union positions before. Now the applicator is a non-union position, so it's broke out there, depicting that.
Can I ask a question on that?
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna say, you're showing an increase of $30,000. It looks like mostly in classified.
Yeah, Betty, and I don't know, I don't know how that all transpires, because those numbers are, Jennifer supplies those numbers to me, and I only think it's that way because of the way
Oh, wait.
it's broke out, but I don't fully understand it. Because looking at the past,
Because if you look at 19, other than the director position, you had actual employees of only 28,000. Was that due to vacancies, maybe?
I honestly can't answer that, Betty, I don't know.
Okay, anyway, I'm
I
sorry.
just know when I
think
showed
that's
up
what
in
was just
February, I
looking at.
had two full-time, one account clerk and then one applicator, so I don't know from there.
Because if you're comparing to, yeah, you're showing 30,000 from last year's budget, but you look actual to 2019, you're showing a 40,000 increase, so I'm just curious why.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry, I wish I had an answer for you. I also don't, on the wage reimbursements, the 33,525, I don't know where that number come from either. Looking at last year's and the previous years before that, it's been around 18,000, so I don't know on that one either.
For the commissioners, those reimbursements, wage reimbursements, those are when they spray for other counties, that they can allocate what costs were paid from those reimbursements from those counties for those hours.
Okay.
From those entities within the counties, not other counties.
No, right.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. We're only spraying in Shawnee County.
Yes, thank you, I'm sorry, I'm, like townships and
Yes,
things, right?
yes.
I'm sorry, I worded that incorrectly. Thank you for correcting me.
So moving on to contractual services, there's only a few increases here that I just wanted to point out. One of them was the drug screen physical new hires. There was nothing budgeted for it. When we hire those intermittents, we send them over for a drug screen, pre-employment stuff, and so that's now budgeted. Building maintenance outside work, as you can see in the past, The budget had been relatively non-existent for those, and so I increased it to $5,000 to address some of the building issues that we need to address.
What are those?
Our garage doors, they don't seal, the rubber's gone on them, the tracks are all messed up, so you can only raise them up so high, and then they get stuck. And so furnaces hadn't been serviced, and so with the seals gone, the furnaces that heat that shop sit there and just run all day long. And so things that we need to take care of before winter gets in here. The iPads and phones are on there. That's a significant increase from last year. Yes.
Sorry, I have another question up here on the contracts. Cartograph, I know we had talked about, you did not believe that was going to be a benefit to you.
That is correct.
Have you talked about not using Cartograph?
Actually, yes, Jennifer sent me over a deal, and I believe I don't believe we took it out of there.
Okay. Okay,
I assume that was a discussion that somebody had, probably that I wasn't part of, and then she just confirmed whether we were or not. And so-
okay, it was just in the comment line, I see. If I look back on the contracts, I do not see it, so.
Yeah, it's been
Okay,
removed.
Okay, I just saw it on the comment line, okay.
How much was that cardiograph? How much of a savings would that be?
$26,000, Commissioner Rippon.
That was pretty sizable.
Yes. Well, I'm sorry.
Just a reminder, the commission, there's 4 entities that were paying the cartograph bill. Public Works, Solid Waste, Parks and Rec, and the weed department. Weed department is only like 3 people. We've talked about that before. I guess overall, it doesn't matter where it comes from, I guess, as long as it's funded. But I think we've taken it out of the weed department's budget because it wasn't really suitable. They found no use for it. They're a small department. So I think Parks and Rec has absorbed that additional cost, haven't they, Betty?
I assume so.
Yeah.
And I do think it does matter where we show it, because I think we want to try as best we can to show the cost for that specific department.
Right.
So I know it wouldn't, the total amount going out of the county may not change, but I do think we want to reflect as closely as we can the cost of that department. So, thank
Good
you.
idea.
And those iPads, speaking of those iPads, Kurt and I's had conversations. We're reallocating some of them. He's took possession of one of them now. So we're working on plans to try to send those to other departments. I believe we're going to be able to keep 1 or 2 in use for our violation program when we send out letters for violations. But
So is that something, this shows $3,700, is that something that should decrease?
Well, it may, yes, it will decrease by 1 for now, and as we develop other uses for those, then they may shift over to Public Works or another department.
Okay, because you've already purchased them, right? You've already
Correct,
paid for
that
them.
is just the service, because
Okay.
those iPads have, they have
Service.
data, live stream data to them, so we're getting billed that data. That's what that cost is.
Just a reminder to the commissioners, those were purchased before John came on board. They were purchased by Parks and Rec for the purpose of the weed department. And they were recently transferred to the weed department. The weed department has tried to use them and found limited success using them, and so that's what John's getting at.
Okay, moving right along, supplies. I just put this slide in here just to kind of show you how chemicals were before. Special supplies and materials was budgeted for $50,000. And from my understanding is they could spend that, and then through reimbursements, it was reallocated and you could spend up. So we typically, this year, we asked to go out to purchase $150,000 worth of chemical. And so we would place an order, as that revenue source come in, then that line item was refunded, and you could never really see or track how that was done. And so this year we changed that. As you'll see, there's a chemical line item now that has that budgeted amount of $150,000. And down toward the bottom of that, you'll see a reimbursement then for material reimbursement. And it shows 112.5. I'm sorry, that's so small there. But that shows 112.5 of that $150,000 coming back to us in revenue. And that difference is that 25% cost share that we have to share that, or that we have to absorb to sell that by law. You guys understand that? Okay.
Yeah, in past years, they were basically kind of netting it out, and we had told them it was netting out to zero, and we said, well, there are some costs to the county, so we need to be able to show those costs to the county, and that was where that 50,000.
So this number is all, simple math. I just took 25% off 150. I mean, I'm no rocket scientist, but what that 112.5 don't depict is anything that we sell outside of cost share, our dyes, our surfactants, our bare ground stuff, we sell at full price. So that reimbursement number will be higher than the 112.5, but I have no way to tell you what that is, not knowing until we sell the actual chemical. Does that make sense?
So what about the chemicals that you actually use for county property? Then where are they in the budget?
They're all in that.
In that 150?
Yes, they're all in that 150,
Okay,
but they'll reimburse through how we reimburse for our billing.
okay,
So, and they're not reimbursed as in the cost share amount. So when we spray for the townships, we charge them actual cost. It's not a cost share amount. Make sense?
well, yeah, I guess
The cost share only applies when you sell chemicals to the public.
no, I understand, but we use our own chemicals when we're spraying for the county outside of those cost share agreements or even the township agreements.
Right.
So that's included in
And
here.
and Betty, quite honestly, how we did it over there was we had line items, here's herbicides for landowners, and then we had other herbicides that we use as county road use. And so we could still do that. I mean, that's an option too, to
I'm just asking the
to
question.
show what we,
Well,
to
and I-
track what we use. But we can still track that. I can track it in a different way.
Well, and I think this is the perfect opportunity, you and your staff are all new, to really figure out what you think is the best way of accounting these. My office will work with you. We're not set that it has to be a specific way. We can work with you on what the end result needs to be, but you can tell us, as far as the information you need, which is the best way. If you know, we could split that into 2 object codes, if that is beneficial, or not, you know. It
I
just-
thought this way was just gonna be more, less of a hindrance. So it'll be more clear
Okay.
at the end of the day. And then if you ever wanted to know, John, how much money did you spend on county roads? I can give you that figure.
Okay.
I mean, we are tracking everything under the sun now. Something that wasn't done in the past, we are tracking it. If you want to know how much that truck costs per day, I'll be able to tell you how much chemical we applied. So it's just, we are tracking that much of it now. So that's how the chemicals show up different, is now it's actually, here's a budgeted amount, reimbursements down here. We'll be able to tell where we're at. Vehicle equipment supplies, I did raise up some. It's done exactly the same way. It was done, your budgeted amount was $2,100. We actually spent in the $6,000 to $8,000 range on an average of 3 years, but it was funded back through reimbursements. And so all we did was just raise it up to what our average was, and it's coming back in reimbursements under equipment reimbursements. So we'll just be able to track exactly the expenses. The only other notable on here I want to talk about real quick is tires. The funding for tires, you can see, has been short for years. We have 7 trucks and 9 sprayers. And so I did increase that a little bit to help compensate it, not near enough that it needs to be. But again, took in consideration COVID year and and we'll kind of do what we can do to get by. The last slide is just your budget totals, what's submitted there versus last year, 294 versus 271.
John, you want to indicate in it most of that increase in personnel?
Yes, and most of that increase was in personnel. You know, I walked you through the high side, the things that I increased, so you can see they weren't very much. I mean, you know, I didn't build any fluff in the budget. I gave you an actual working budget, and you know, knowing that this year's gonna be a tough year for everybody, and you know, we're just gonna have to cinch our belts up and do what we can. So, that increase was roughly right at $23,000. Future goals, do you guys mind if I walk around, or can you not hear me?
We are recording and streaming.
Oh, that's
so
right.
You need to be fairly close.
Fairly close?
Yeah.
I'm more of a walker when I talk. But future goals, this is that part I was talking about. I want to equip all vehicles with GPS tracking systems that will monitor the maintenance of the fleet, location, and where herbicides are applied. Doing that, it has a feature in there that we can geofence areas, as many areas as we want. And so what geofencing is I can take the nursery out here, and I can put a 1 mile radius around that nursery. And if that truck crosses in that 1 mile radius, it's gonna alert me, it's gonna send me an email and said, hey, this truck entered that geofence. And we're gonna know. So we can let them know, hey, there's a sensitive crop location there. Don't spray anything. This is guys, this is a very important part of this in today's society. This, you know, we can do hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s worth of damage. They estimated 1 acre of grapes was worth $100,000 one time. We had this in our vehicles at Douglas County, and it paid off so many times when the inspectors come down to say, hey, they seen your truck spraying in this area. We could pull up this map and show it. It wasn't us. Yeah, we were in the area, but there's no area here that we sprayed. And then you could show them the areas that we were closest to. And so, you know, we did a 2 mile radius around all grape growers, just to be more cautious. But to me, this is a really big safety issue, as well as a liability for us to be able to help. I mean, it's another tool in the toolbox. So, personnel, you know, maybe in 2022, I'll be able to add this in there, is I'd like to add another applicator, full-time applicator, and get rid of 2 of the intermittent applicators. Facilities, you know, just paint the exterior of the building, give it a facelift, replace those 3 garage doors and tracks, put openers on them, those type deals. On our contracts and billing, we're going to change on how we bill townships starting in 2022. Right now, they're based on so much per mile, and I'd like to change that and move to a cost-based labor, equipment, and material. We would eliminate blanket spraying out of the third of the county, and just be able to spray areas, spot spray areas as weeds are actively growing. And then in the fall, if we had certain areas that were problem areas, then we would spray those. But it would save us from blanket spraying a third of the whole county. You know, people are watching that stuff now. A lot of people don't like herbicides. And so if we go out and spray just the areas that are problem areas, I think it'll be better for us. And then my last slide, I wanted to throw in the picture of the building and show you the new fence that was erected here from the storm. Turned out pretty nice. Looks really good. And with that, I will take your questions.
John, Didn't you reduce the number of types of chemicals we sell now? We got out of kind of the turf business and,
We did. We actually, I think we got rid of about 5 chemicals in total. Some were labeled just for turf. Some we couldn't cost share and shouldn't have been cost sharing to begin with. So those are all gone. We still have the basics that everybody uses and a couple selections on those as well. I think in 2021, when we go out for chemical bids, part of the problem with going low bid on chemical stuff all the time is it changes every year. And so when you have those customer comes in and they want Buccaneer. Buccaneer, Commissioner Mays, is a non-selective herbicide. It's Roundup. So it will kill everything. But they tell you they just want to spray thistles in their yard. But they tell you that I want Buccaneer. Well, Buccaneer's not gonna, are you sure you want to do that? And so they don't understand that it's a non-selective, it's gonna kill the grass too. Then you get to explaining it, well, I thought it was Buccaneer's what I got. And so we're constantly changing names of chemical. I'd like to try to streamline it a little bit. We're not gonna eliminate anybody from buying chemical. If we say we want Pasture Guard, well, all the suppliers can bid Pasture Guard. Pasture Guard's just a name brand. And so that's what I want to do is kind of streamline it that way. We don't really care that it's Platoon 2,4-D or 2,4-D amine from Corn Belt. But yes, we did do away with some of the chemicals, about 5 in total. I got rid of the ones that carry just a turf label that couldn't be used in range or pasture right away, and just went to ones that could just strictly do that, and ones that could be cost shared. That was the big deal.
any other questions?
Any
Thank-
weed questions you want to know?
Maybe another time.
I bored you long enough. Well, gentlemen, thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, John. Okay, it's 3:08.